Now, the EPA recently angered progressive activists when it released a report that claimed that they found no evidence that fracking had any widespread systemic impacts on the drinking water. Now, of course, anyone paying attention or living in those areas affected will probably tell you different, as there have been reports, documented reports, there have been videos, documentaries, where people living in these areas can light their tap water on fire. And there's also reports of people that were getting sick from drinking this water that ended up having fracking chemicals in it. So that's a big problem, right? And the EPA report, they ignored that. Now, it appears that in the aftermath of this, the EPA Science Board released a scathing review of the EPA's findings. And look, here's what they found according to DSmog blog. It says, on Thursday, the EPA's scientific advisors finished their review of EPA's national study on fracking and sternly rebuked the EPA for claiming that its draft study had found no evidence of widespread systemic impacts on the drinking water. In a letter signed by 26 of the 30 panelists, they write, the SAB is concerned that these major findings as presented within the executive summary are ambiguous and appear inconsistent with the observations, data, and levels of uncertainty presented and discussed in the body of the draft assessment report. The SAB finds that the EPA did not support quantitatively its conclusion about lack of evidence for widespread systemic impacts of hydraulic fracturing on drinking water resources, and did not clearly describe the system of interest, i.e. groundwater, surface water, the scale of impacts, i.e. local or regional, nor the definitions of systemic and widespread. So basically, what this thing said, what this executive statement said, is that we didn't find any widespread impact on water from fracking. So no problems, right? Except that they didn't actually back that up. And furthermore, it says that if the EPA retains this conclusion, they should provide a quantitative analysis that supports its conclusion that hydraulic fracturing has not led to widespread systemic impacts on drinking water resources. Back it up. Let's see. Let's see how you came to that conclusion. Now, of course, environmental advocates welcome the science panel's findings, see it as essentially vindication, because it is. As DSmog blog reports, the EPA study had long been under fire for apparent coziness between researchers and the shale industry. Repeatedly, news outlets obtained drafts of the EPA study plans that showed a powerful industry influence over the study and a steady narrowing of the study's scope, which would mean that the real-world problems would not make it into the EPA's on-paper review of fracking's potential hazards. This is some of the criticism that this study has faced since coming out. Now, one EPA representative wrote to another representative, Chesapeake Energy, who also co-wrote this, said, "You guys are part of the team here. Please write things in as you see fit." Wait a minute. You're going to allow the energy companies to help you co-write this study on the impacts of fracking. I don't know if you know this, but Chesapeake Energy is a company that uses fracking. Owns a lot of fracking wells. So they're writing this executive summary on the report of the safety on the safety of fracking. They're helping write this. Well, no wonder we got this result. No wonder. So basically, you know what? It's totally safe. Fracking is totally safe. Doesn't have any widespread impacts. So don't freak out, everybody. What we're going to do is we're going to continue to frack more. Oh, who says it's safe? Well, the EPA, as well as Chesapeake Energy. They told me so. What? What? So, now the thing is, this executive summary, co-written by Chesapeake Energy, as well as the EPA representatives, well, doesn't actually reflect what's in the study. And so what did they find that was left out of this executive summary? Well, DSmog reviewed it and found that the EPA described numerous problems, including the following. Meanwhile, accidents at fracking wells keep on happening, both above ground and under, by the hundreds or thousands. 1 in a dozen spills by drillers wasn't contained before it hit drinking water sources, and the spills that hit water supplies tended to be much larger spills than those that didn't. Although gas wells are generally depicted as having numerous layers of concrete and steel casings to prevent the gas, wastewater, and chemicals inside the well from interacting with the environment outside it, 2/3 of wells had no cement along some portions of their bores. An EPA review found, and conditions underground, which can leave wells under high pressure, high temperatures, or in corrosive environments, sometimes called wells casings, to have life expectancies that run out in under a decade. But the oil and gas industry has told investors that shale wells are expected to keep pumping for 30 years or more. In its letter yesterday, the SAB peer review panel also took the EPA to task for neglecting some of the nation's highest profile cases of water contamination, like in Pavilion, West Virginia, Parker County, Texas, and Dimmock, Pennsylvania. People from those towns whose waters were contaminated had testified before the SAB in November, questioning the panel about the EPA's apparent decision to ignore what had happened to the communities. Now, these people in these communities, while testifying, said stuff like this. Stephen Lipsky of Parker County, Texas, said, quote, "I feel that the EPA abandoned me." Abandoned. They're supposed to protect these people. And now, this same guy faces a defamation lawsuit from Range Resources after the EPA dropped its investigation into the flammable water in his home. He can't drink his water. He can't use his water. He can light it on fire. Okay? He can light it on fire. And so he's like, EPA, investigate this. Why is my water on fire? It could be the fracking wells, right? Because there's a fracking well next door. EPA says, we can't find any evidence that it's fracking. So now this guy, who's a victim, is being sued by the fracking company. That's sick, man. That's sick. In its peer review, the SAB called on the EPA to include those 3 high-profile incidents and questioned the EPA's decision to zoom out the lens by focusing on widespread problems. These local-level potential impacts have the potential to be severe, and the final assessment report needs to be better characterized and recognize the importance of local impacts, especially since locally important impacts are unlikely to be captured in a national-level summary of impacts, the SAB told the EPA. Now look, this is important, right? Here's what we have is EPA scientists, the people who study this, calling them out for not being honest about the impacts in its statement. Now, of course, you look at the corporate media response on this, how they covered this. They said, look, fracking's safe. See? We can still, we can drill, baby, drill. We don't need to go to alternative energy. No. All we have to do is just keep up these wells because they're perfectly safe. And the gas industry, they love that. But it's not safe. Now, it doesn't have widespread impacts because, well, look, it's not widespread enough. But despite that, it still sure has some impacts. Look, fracking is not good. It's not safe. It's had a lot of local impacts, which are super important, right? And if we continue to do more fracking to allow more wells to be built, that's going to become widespread. And once you poison a water supply, you can't really unpoison it, at least not very easily. It's very difficult to do. So be careful. We need to be careful. In fact, what we need to do is we need to end fracking. We need to ban it. Gone. And transfer to alternative energy. Now, alternative energy is ready. It's cheap. And if we do it right now, we can also head off the worst of climate change, which is here, whether we like it or not. It is not a hoax by the Chinese. It is real. It is happening. And we have a chance to stop it before it gets even worse, before Florida ends up underwater. So we can either do something now, or we can sit here and continue to be fracked. And for me, I at least choose to do something. Hey everybody, if you like this video, then please like this video and share. And if you want to see more like this, then please hit that subscribe button below.